welcome to this Filmstro walkthrough of version 0.82. Let's get started. So we open up Filmstro, we're immediately prompted for any music that automatically downloads. So at the moment there's one theme that seems to be coming through that I've not got yet. So just wait for that to load up. Great. So Filmstro opens in demo mode. We've got a piece of footage which we've given you guys to have a little play with, so you can kind of orchestrate a picture. There's a theme here, musical theme already preloaded into the timeline. I'm just going to right click to delete that, so I can show you the workflow in a minute of how to load those in. So there are three main areas. There's the explore section, the audition section, and then of course the kind of create area here. Now in the explore section, if you were in the demo version and hadn't signed up yet for membership or any other plan, then you'd have another album up here with the demo themes in. I'm obviously on the full version. There are a number of albums. There's more to come, so that you can find music even more quickly and have even more choice. But for now, yeah, we've got 16 albums. They're arranged from left to right in dyads, so there's always a kind of positive and then the negative inflection, if you like, of those emotional tones here. So if you go into one of these albums, it then lists out the results in that album. By hovering over a given track, you can then see down at the bottom the tags. So it gives you various tags. It also gives you the time signature, the BPM and the key signature, and then less noticeably on the left hand side here is a little symbol. Now this one's a violin. This indicates that it's an orchestral piece. We have four main instrumental palettes which we are using at the moment to differentiate the pieces by, and they're quite broad, but I think hopefully quite useful as well. So orchestral is literally defined as anything, well, it is basically used in an orchestra. So completely acoustic music, but also that kind of filmic, traditional orchestral stuff. We have this other one here, which is an electric guitar that symbolises our electric category. So everything in this one requires instruments to be plugged in, so they're amplified. So think stacks and electric guitars and big amps and bass guitars and full drum kits, to compete with that kind of noise volume. We have another one which is, if I can find one quickly, which is acoustic. So here's the acoustic guitar. These are then of course unplugged instruments. So again, think acoustic guitars and smaller drum kits and live kind of session setups and stuff like that. And then there is last one is the digital one, which is, let's have a look. Here we go. So that symbol there, the decks, show the kind of digital instrumental palette. So again, these aren't in real live drum kits, for instance. This is more, beats-driven stuff, synthesizers, EDM, all that good stuff. So those are our broad categories. We can use the audition area to take a piece for a spin. Basically, if we identify something that we think might work for our footage by just listening to the preview. Now the preview will always play in one inflection, and when I say inflection, what I'm talking about is the positions of these sliders. So this piece here, Dinlas, if I hit play, I'm expecting to hear something that's going to be kind of ring true with the tags, which are human tragedy, hopelessness and emotional. So let's have a quick listen to that. I can imagine that sort of thing on a documentary, some hard-hitting thing about a war zone or whatever. But it gets better. So now what we can do is, if I take all these sliders to the left to their kind of minimal position and play that again, I can take this piece for a spin and find out the kind of spectrum and kind of what else this piece can do. So just let's check this out. Turning momentum up a bit, making it sound faster. Depth to kind of bring in the lower frequency instruments and kind of fill it out, and power just to add some energy and intensity. So these three sliders then are really what underpins Filmstro. They are, in our belief anyway, the three fundamental parameters that any music is manipulated with, regardless of genre, regardless of instrumental palette, regardless of the emotional tone of the piece of music. All music changes in three main ways. That's the momentum, so how busy or fast or kind of energetic something sounds. The depth dials in kind of low frequency instruments and changes between, say, a high voice and a very, very low voice, for instance. It also brings in kind of more body, kind of thickens things out, and power. Kind of self-explanatory, but in Filmstro again, this is more musical in the sense that it's not just adding more instruments or kind of volume, it's changing the way these instruments are performed to bring in that more intense feeling. So once we have chosen a piece that we think is going to be suitable, we can drag it in with this little handle here, take it into the timeline. At this point you can then, determine your start point, end point, bring in more pieces of music. You can have a fairly unlimited number here. Let's get rid of that. For this example, I'm just going to leave this exactly where it is. And yeah, so without taking up too much more time, because I want to get to the end of this so you guys can crack on, I just want to go through a few of the shortcuts we've got, a few of the commands, and just the way you might attack writing a piece of music to picture. So the more visual amongst you might identify a given frame and then literally choosing momentum, depth or power. You can do that here with these radio buttons. You might decide, oh, actually I want to have the power go up at this point in the film, which is great. So you can just create a node by clicking in, move the node. You can get rid of them again, of course, as well. So I just clicked it again to highlight it, then I'm hitting backspace to delete key. The ways to shuttle around these, instead of having to click these radio buttons, you can use command and numbers. So command 1 takes us to momentum, command 2 is depth, command 3 is power. Video volume is command 4, and soundtrack volume is command 5. Now video volume is the sound that is already contained in this piece of footage, in other words the Foley, any voices, stuff like that. And the soundtrack volume is of course the Filmstro music. So the soundtrack you're creating is the global overall volume. So here, as you can see already, I've created a fade out basically at the end. We can have a listen to that if you like. And it starts quietly as well. I've started kind of gently and just kind of brought the overall volume of the piece of music in as well. So shortcuts were to shuttle through command 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Return key gets you back to the beginning of the footage, and then there are just the other ones which are quite useful if you want to delete automation. So say you've done this depth, or I don't know, maybe even the power, and at this point here you've got options to delete this if you wanted to do it again. So say you weren't quite happy with the way you've changed the power at this point, you could go in and delete. You could delete one node, or you can marquee select to delete 2 or more nodes, or you can just do command and backspace. That will then delete the whole lot. So that's that one, command backspace. We do of course have command Z and redo, and yeah, let me just show you how you can just record something on the fly. So I'm going to do the power, which is currently highlighted here. You don't have to select the parameters, by the way. If you want to make changes on the fly, you literally just touch the sliders and it'll adjust. I'll show you. Here we go. So if we bring the power up, it literally activates that graph. Great.
You saw it, right?
Change the depth, maybe.
I saw it.
Server down 2 hours?
And you can see here that the depth has gone down, and as I released it, it created a node, and now the default line goes back to the previously recorded point. So if you knew, for instance, already that you wanted to have this change in depth as your kind of new normal, if you like, I guess you'd just go ahead and get rid of that one. So that's about it really in terms of how to use Filmstro. You can delete all of the automation if you want to have a completely fresh start. That's Shift Command Backspace. So it gives you a completely clean slate. I believe the video volume is up by default, and soundtrack volume is also up by default. So changing a video, say you want to work on a different edit, you hit this button up here. Then we just need to quickly talk about export. Oh, this is full screen, and then export options, which are If you're running an older Mac, then you might have to go for real time. But in general, if you're running, anything from sort of 2013 onwards, or certainly with an SSD drive, then you're okay for fast, which is recommended. You can bounce out just the soundtrack, which gives you the music. Then you can bring that back into your Avid, Final Cut, Adobe Premiere, whatever. You can take all of the audio if you're happy with the way that the levels are in terms of the Foley complementing the music, etc. Or you can bounce out a video, which again will contain by default all audio. So just a quick, guide picture to share with clients, or share with editors and other creatives in your team. All right, hopefully you found this useful. We look forward to seeing you in Filmstro, and have fun.